So thank you so much for agreeing to come onto the show.
Oh, thank you so much for the invite. Yeah, I was so excited when you reached out. I love talking about this. I teach about it. I send emails about it. I create content about it, because I just believe that you are your brand. And so when you put yourself out there and you put your unique personality and style into your marketing, like that comes through your business. And when you do that, you're able to find your people. That's kind of my philosophy for everything.
You know what? You're so right. And I have so many questions about it and so many things I want to talk about. But
Awesome.
before we dig into all that, I would love if you can share like your journey. Like, how did you end up here? Because you have an award-winning agency in Jersey Shore, and that's pretty cool. But did you always know you wanted to be in marketing?
No.
Okay. I have never met somebody who said yes.
No, not at all. I did not go to school for it. I went to school for voice performance and education and different things. It kind of fell into my lap. To cut a very, very long story short, I did not graduate college. I left college because I did not pick the right college, but that's another story. I moved to Brooklyn to try to audition and do theater. I was nannying out there. This was in 2003. And, I'm living on mustard sandwiches. I have no money, doing the whole, starving artist thing. And eventually I ran out of money and I had to move home with my tail between my legs. And, having a very, depressing few months living back home with my parents, who I love, but still, it was
It's
like,
hard.
it was hard. And then I ended up finding a part-time job in a box office here in New Jersey at this historic theater, and very quickly worked my way up and became part of box office management, and was learning the ropes and having so much fun, putting together ticketing and seating charts and stuff for all these legendary performers. And then this was when social media was a baby. It was brand new. And my friends in the box office were like, "Oh, you have to get on this thing called MySpace." And I'm like, "What the heck is that?" And then of course we all became obsessed with it. And then while I'm, leading the box office and doing all the admin type stuff you would do in an office in the crazy performing arts world, one day I was like, I should make a MySpace for the theater, because why not? And I didn't ask anybody, I just did it. And it was just, kind of a little side hobby. And so I put all the shows on there and the link to the ticketing and whatever. And then eventually I started to notice that people were reaching out to me there, asking questions about the shows and like buying tickets from there and sharing it with their friends. And then after some time, Upstairs noticed and they were like, "Do you just want to come work in marketing?" And I'm like, "I don't know anything about marketing, but like apparently I did. I just didn't know what I was doing was marketing." So I moved upstairs, and for the next couple years became kind of a one woman show of like graphic design, video editing, social media, website management, doing the emails, like making the posters, like all these different things. And then YouTube came out, Instagram came out, like all these things were so new. And then eventually other businesses in the area who were not using social media for business at that time were like, "Who's doing the Twitter for this theater? Who's doing the videos, whatever." And I started leading workshops on behalf of the theater, teaching other businesses how to do it. And then I eventually moved on to a different theater down the street, doing the same kind of stuff and expanding on my toolbox even further with Facebook ads and all kinds of different things. And then eventually, kind of became known for that in the arts and theater community in New Jersey, but also with other business owners who were like, "Can you help me with a logo? Can you help me set up my Facebook page? Can you help me? Can you help me?" And everyone was telling me to start a business. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't know anything about that. Like, I never wanted to have my own business, but I started to take on some side clients to, supplement my nonprofit salary. And then eventually I became too busy to keep doing both jobs, and I decided to go for it. And that was 8 years ago. And I have been full time here ever since, doing that kind of work. I'm a kind of, I'm interested in lots of things. I like to do lots of different kinds of things. It's also the ADHD talking. But social media, branding, web design, content strategy, marketing of all different kinds for small businesses, creatives, and arts organizations. That's kind of been where I've landed. And yeah, I just really enjoy particularly working with female small business owners who are like, what the frig am I doing? And, I'm passionate about my work and what I do, but maybe I don't know exactly how to tell my story or get people's attention. And that's where I come in and I like to make you sparkle. I like to make you show off like how great you are at what you do.
Our stories are so similar. Although
Ah.
I was not in theater, not at all.
Hmm.
My business happened by accident and very similar. It's like, oh my gosh, here we are. So I could relate to every piece of your story.
Hmm.
And I think it's just so cool that your natural talent just came out without even trying to think, right? Like, what do I want to do when I grow up? And you're like, oh, here it is, like served on a platter. Didn't think about that, right?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, sometimes I think back to, when you're in kindergarten and they ask, what do you want to be when you grow up or whatever? Like, I, for a long time, said artist, for a long time, said teacher,
I had
and for a
teacher on
long
my
time
list
said,
too.
yeah, and for a long time said, actress. And so I feel like those three things still are part of what I do, just in different ways.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more.
Hmm.
Absolutely. So you mentioned earlier that you love to make people's businesses sparkle and bring out who they really are.
Hmm.
So let's talk about that sparkle, because I'm sure I've got listeners right now who are listening to your story and they're like, I want my social media, I want my business to sparkle, but it feels flat right now.
Hmm.
And I'm not sure what I need to do.
Hmm.
So, first off, I'm going to ask you, before I ask you what are things we can do, I'm going to ask you, what's the biggest mistake that you see small businesses doing when it comes to their social media?
In my opinion, it is two things,
Okay.
actually. One, it is trying to do all the things and be all the things and be everywhere so that you feel like, oh, like I want to set up all my accounts on all these platforms. I want to get all my stuff in all these places. And it's kind of cart before the horse, because you're not thinking necessarily, where is my ideal audience likely to be hanging out? Let me
Mhm.
focus there, because why would I be spinning my wheels in all these other places when they're not even there?
Yeah.
And you're burning yourself out by trying to do all the things at once. So that's the one thing. But the other thing, and I think the more important and the bigger thing, is trying to be everything to everyone all at once.
Mm.
Meaning trying to be fine, quote unquote, vanilla, trying to be generic so that you don't offend anybody, or it's palatable to everyone, whatever your message is or your visuals or your colors, or whatever the thing is. um and I think when you are doing that, you literally lose who you are. You lose yourself,
Yeah.
and then you make it so much harder to do the work you're trying to do the marketing, to do the promotion, even whatever your products or your services are. I feel becomes harder to do, because you're like, ugh, now I have to like market this, I have to like post this, I have to write a thing, I have to design a thing. How do I word this? How do I describe this? Like, what do I want to put out there? And it's not compelling, because it's not the real you a lot of the
Mhm.
time, is what I see. It's kind of like that saying, if everything is bold, nothing is bold, right? And so if you're trying to just, meet the middle of everything. It's like you're not standing out, you're also not being true to yourself. And I think people can see that. And I find that if you really can speak to that one unique person that you're trying to work with in the way that you would speak to a friend, that you would text a friend or email a friend, it just starts to flow. It comes through you. And when you do that, I think people notice as well. And I believe that what you put out there, marketing wise or messaging wise, it should, of course, attract the people that you do want to work with, but it should also repel the people you don't want to work with. It's kind of
Ooh.
a two-way street is my thought.
And I think that can be scary especially
Hmm.
for a new small business
It
owner
is.
to repel people that you don't want to work with, because then it feels like you're losing money. Like, well, I
Yep.
can get something from them. And Alycia, I don't know if you've experienced this at any time, but have you ever said yes to taking on a job or a project that really didn't align with you and then regretted it every single moment?
I mean, how much time do we have?
I know, right? Right?
Yes.
It's, like, not
Abs-
worth the money.
it's not, but that's the thing. If there are, if there are newbies out there listening right now, I know that it's hard to turn down those things, or like not accept every single job that comes in, because it's that feast or famine mentality. What if I never get another job? What am I going to do to replace this client? This, that, the other. But all I can do is speak from my experience and say 100% of the time it has never been worth it. When there have been those projects or those clients or those whatevers, it has never been worth the stress, the mental anguish, the just, you need to protect your peace.
Yeah.
And at a certain point in my business, I embraced that fully, and I stopped caring about, I need to collect every single dollar. And I was just like, no, no more of this. And it is hard. And, maybe, excuse me, maybe that's the answer, is that if there are folks out there listening who are, just kind of starting out, maybe part of the learning experience is that you do have to go through that to learn the lesson. I don't know. But I did. I had to go through it to learn the lesson. And that's what, put the shift in my mind of like, no. And I started pre-qualifying my clients. I started changing my process, like, because it affects your whole life. It really does, at least for me. And I know it's hard. It really is hard. When I started out, I wanted every project. I wanted to work with everybody. I can help everybody. And just, no, it was the quickest way to burnout and frustration. And I just realized that, to go back to what we were just talking about, I realized that the messaging and the content and stuff I was putting out to promote my business was like very professional and buttoned up and proper. And I wanted to prove that I knew what I was doing and I'm trustworthy and all of that. And I was just like, this doesn't even sound like me. And I'm attracting the wrong, projects and people and stuff. So I like cold turkey just stopped. And, now I post photos that are not polished. I have typos in my stuff once in a while. I don't care. It has not affected. Like, I just kind of stopped. And I know that that is scary, but I think if you try it like with one small thing, it gets easier each time. And then eventually the whole thing gets easier to be more yourself.
I love that. And, I'm sure people are listening going, but how, like, I hear you, but how do I do that? Right?
Hmm.
How do you, and I know you mentioned earlier that you think of one person and then you talk to them like it's your friend,
Yeah.
but that can also be scary because, how do you make that jump? Do you just do it?
Hmm. Well, I would say that, it might be a good idea to just do a test run that doesn't get posted. No one has to know you're doing anything, just for fun on the side. Say you were going to write a new social media caption for whatever, an event, a product, a service, whatever. Write it how you would normally write it. And then do a second version in notes or whatever, where you literally pull up a photo of a friend of yours on your phone and write it to that friend as if you were texting or talking on the couch, hanging out, whatever. And if you can't write that way, you can even do a voice memo. And then, type it back out or use a transcript thing to pull out the wording. But I think when you're doing that, it just becomes more natural. And you can see, like, do I feel comfortable posting it like this? This is how I talk. Do I want people to hear how I talk? And I think that's a deeper question. Like, do I want people to know the real me? I have gotten pushback on this. I'm only sharing my opinion, and what's worked for me and my clients, but I did have pushback from one of my clients a couple years ago who was like, we were working on a website project, and she was like, I don't want people to know me. I don't want to put my face out there. I want to be a faceless business. I don't want to do this, whatever. And I basically had to tell her, like, I understand that's your point of view. This is how I do my projects. Like, maybe we need to, to figure out a different solution. In the end, she came around a bit, but it was like a little more muted than what I typically do. But that was her truth. That was her comfort level. So I get it. I get that not everyone is ready to jump in with both feet. But that's what I'm saying. I wasn't either. Yeah. In the beginning, I was like trying to protect my feelings, my self-esteem, my, whatever. And then I just was like, the reason that I have gotten opportunities in life or made friends or gotten promotions or, had opportunities, whatever, is because of my personality and who I am. So why can't I bring that into my business? And I think when you're talking about how to make my business sparkle, for example, when you have a website, sure, it's your online home, but you're also using it as a marketing tool, for people to learn about you, your products, your services, and you yourself. And it's kind of a living, breathing thing that you can always update. It's never done, never. And and there's so many ways that you can infuse your personality into it. I actually have a freebie about that, which I'll talk about at the end. But there are so many little quirky, fun ways that you can make your business and yourself sparkle. So maybe in your website, you're including maybe a fun playlist of some of your favorite tunes. Maybe you're including some photos from a recent vacation and you want to show, what you did over the summer. Maybe you're including some inspirational quotes that you really love, or some funny behind the scenes photos, flashback stuff, maybe a list of some of your favorite things, just like little ways for opportunities for connection, so that the person landing on your site is like, oh my God, I love Stranger Things too. Like oh my God, I love Stevie Nicks, or, whatever the things are. One of my longest clients found me exactly that way because I had a profile listing on a creative, it's called Creative Lady Directory, I think. And I had a listing on there where I talked about the services that I provide, and there was like a colorful photo of me. And I said how I was a Jersey girl. I love 80s music and nachos and Bruce Springsteen. And someone contacted me. This was in 2019. She's been my longest client, one of my best clients. And she was just like, you just hit the trifecta for me. Jersey girl, Bruce Springsteen, nachos. I was like, hired. So that's what I mean. Like, and that's not anything that is untrue. That's just stuff that I like, and I just put it out there.
Yeah, that's such great advice. And I love the advice that you said, like, to pull out a picture of your friend on your phone, and just talk, voice memo. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's such an easy tool to implement that would really get you into that spirit of just creating content that sparkles. That's your real personality. Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned also earlier, one of the biggest mistakes you saw was that people try to be on every platform. And I hear that too, that they're trying to be everything, because that's all you hear is, oh, you've got to be here. You've got to be on LinkedIn. You've got to be on Instagram. You've got to be on TikTok. Oh, wait, it's gone. No, it's back. Right?
Gotcha.
No, exactly. That was a moment. But, and one question I hear is, well, how do I know which one to pick? And do I
Mhm.
pick one? Do I pick two?
Mhm.
Like, so what is your answer to that?
Sure. So, my advice is always, especially for a business that's just starting, but this really can apply to anybody. I like to say, pick one, get comfortable with it before you start thinking about layering in other ones. Sure, you can layer in other ones, but don't do it all at once. And again, going back to, okay, who am I trying to talk to? What's the clientele? What's the age? What's the interest? What is their preferences technology wise? Are they likely to be scrolling on Instagram? Are they more likely to be on LinkedIn? Are they more likely to be watching videos on YouTube? Are they more likely to be listening to podcasts? Or just try to kind of think about that. I have a social media content strategy course where we go through the different steps of creating a content strategy, and in the first module it's all about identifying and defining your ideal client, including how to find where they're hanging out. Where do you want to kind of focus your efforts in building your social media presence? And so, I mean, I think in terms of choosing a platform, you don't have to overthink it, but just kind of take a couple minutes and, okay, are they really likely to be sitting here on X? Probably not. Maybe they are. Maybe they are for your business, and that's the one you go all in on. But I think even pausing yourself to ask that question is helpful, because I think a lot of folks don't. They think, oh, I have to set up all my accounts. I have to be everywhere. I have to be everything, and you don't. Trust me, you don't.
So, and that's real. That's so true. And thank you for sharing that. I'm thinking about Instagram right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you're on Instagram. We both are on Instagram. And the rules are always changing, not
Yes.
just on Insta, everywhere on
Yeah.
social media, right? We're just going to use Instagram as the example.
Okay.
So you're being your authentic self. You're coming up with content, right? We're implementing your plan of looking at your friend's photo and speaking just to them or thinking of them. And then Instagram says, well, reels are it. So now you
Mm-hmm.
got to start recording yourself. And then it says, well, wait, carousels actually are doing a little bit better than reels. And oh, wait, we're going to roll something else out. Now we're going to change the format of the size, which I personally don't like the new grid look, but that's
Mm-hmm.
a whole other podcast, in my opinion. But how do you stay authentic to your brand's voice and still keep up with those trends as they change? Does it make it more challenging?
Yes.
Okay.
It does. Just being real, it does. However, something that I love is just the concept of repurposing. Repackaging, repurposing, recycling, working with what you already have. So for example, if let's say you created a blog post, you could turn that blog post into a podcast script, and then you could film part of that and turn that into a reel. And then, some of the pull quotes from that podcast can become a carousel of tips. And so like you're always starting with the same like source material, and then picture like roots of a tree going out from that source material, or branches, I should say, not roots, branches going out from the tree of like, I can go here with this. I can go here with this. I can expand it this way. I can expand it that way. And also that you can have, as it doesn't matter how many followers you have on any of these platforms. None of them are going to have seen all of your past content. And so pulling stuff out from the past and putting it out there in a new way. Okay, I did a reel last year. Let me turn this into a carousel. I did a carousel, 6 months ago. Let me turn that into a reel. And kind of thinking it that way. And I think that becomes a little easier because it's not so daunting. You don't have to start from zero. But with whatever you're creating, you can still carry through your personality, your messaging, just in whatever the different medium is. But I will also say, though I have a social media content strategy course, and social media has, one of the ways that I started and grown my business, social media is still rented land. We do not own our followers. And so I'm also always preaching, start your email list as soon as you can. Like,
Preach.
if you haven't started it yet, start it. The best time was yesterday. The next best time is today. Like, you can't, even if you're not ready to send out newsletters yet, get a collection, an email collection, apparatus in place. It's so valuable. And that's another way that you can reach folks when, like you were just saying, oh, TikTok's gone. Crap. you know?
Yeah.
And I see so many businesses that are, they're building their whole thing on the rented land of social media, and then you don't have any control.
Yep.
So it is important to also have email, in my opinion.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. It's funny. I'm going to use this example, but the day that TikTok went down and they said it's done, it's banned in the United States. I'm going to call this a pity post, right? So I might piss off some people who this can relate to, but that's okay. So I saw somebody had posted that a friend of theirs was making $40,000 a month on TikTok, and everything was just gone.
Mm,
And it took everything in me to not comment. Well, it shouldn't be, because their email list should be really like robust.
yeah,
They should be
yeah,
nurturing it there. But based on the pity post of, oh my God, they lost all this, I'm like, my guess is that they don't have an email list.
yeah.
They're not nurturing those,
Mm-hmm,
those followers. They're just looking at vanity numbers
mm-hmm.
and what they're getting, making off of that social media, that platform only, and not taking it to where it can really go.
Yep,
So I love that
absolutely.
you shared that. And and then, and I'm going to share this too, that you had talked about repurposing and taking the one big thing. And I know that you're a podcaster too. You've got your podcast. And I'm not sure if you hear this, but people go, how do you do everything you do? Like, you're doing this, and then you have a podcast. I'm like, you have no idea how having the podcast, yes, it takes time, but how it has simplified my digital marketing content. I don't have to think, because my guests do it for me.
Oh, I like that. I like
Right?
that. Oh,
Can you relate to that? It's like,
I
you're
can.
giving me content.
Well, it's funny because I had wanted a podcast for so long, and I built it up in my head to be this very complicated thing. And finally, in November, this past November, I ripped the Band-Aid off. So I'm still a newbie podcaster, but I will tell you, I'm so relieved that I finally ripped the Band-Aid off, because I'm having so much fun doing it, and it's very natural format for me, and it's fun, and I love to talk, and so it's no problem to make these long episodes. But I I haven't started my guest episodes just yet. I'm scheduling them right now. So I started out with just solo episodes. So I'm looking forward to experiencing what you just said.
Well,
But
you
and
solo.
I can see how that would be, just so excellent. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. But that's really funny.
You know what? It is. But even your solo, you think you come up with your script, you figure out or not your script, but your bullet points of what
Bullet
you want to
points.
talk about
Yep.
in
Yep.
your solo episode. And that still becomes all your content. You're still using everything you said, everything you
Absolutely.
probably have said a million times over. It does simplify the process when you've got that one main blog or podcast, like whatever that main content creation is.
Yep.
You just pull from that. So I thank you for
It-
sharing that, because I think
yeah.
people miss that so much. I think they feel like they are, on a hamster wheel, and they've got to recreate
Yep.
all these things, and they don't see what you explained. It just, like that tree. It just
Yeah.
grows.
Well, it's funny because, like I said, I just started on this podcast journey, and in the beginning, I'm like, okay, like I love talking about all kinds of things, but like, let me get a little organized. Like, what should be my topics? Like, how should I organize this? Like, what do I want to talk about? And then I realized, like, oh my God, I have been producing content for 8 years before starting this podcast. I have 8 years of blogs, of videos, of emails, of lead magnets, of courses, of content, of my Facebook group posts, like other interviews I've done. I don't have to come up with any ideas for like a long time because I mean, I'm joking, but
No, but you're
I
right.
have this whole, yeah, I have this whole back library that I can turn into episodes. And I'm so happy I'm so proud of myself for having like a lot to go on already. And it just makes it that much more fun because I'm allowed now to revisit some past stuff and add new things, I'm really looking forward to, I've already done that a couple times, but I'm really looking forward to kind of like, oh, look at me. Like I have my, my podcast plans already, which is just so awesome. So yeah, I'm repurposing always.
I love it. So you mentioned, and I'm not going to let you go before you talk about your freebie, because you said I've got a freebie for that.
Yes.
And I did not forget because I'm all about sharing resources to my listeners if I can share the resources with them to help them scale in their business. What's your
Totally.
freebie?
Okay, so we were just talking about, how to make yourself sparkle, and how to put more of yourself into your marketing, into your business. So I have a free guide. It's called Your Website, Your Personality, 25 Ways to Stand Out and Shine. And so it's a quick little guide, a little PDF, with 25 powerful ideas to infuse your website with your one-of-a-kind personality. And it can kind of serve as a launching pad for you to customize and make your own and expand on some of my ideas, and just like a fresh perspective of how you present yourself online. So you can grab that at alyciayerves.com/your website personality. And it's been really popular. I just did a podcast episode about it as well.
Yes.
Repurposing, hello.
We'll link that episode in the notes too, so they can listen to it.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Yep.
Yeah. And in that episode, it was great because I used the guide as the kind of framework for the episode, but then I injected examples from my own clients, where I shared some of those tips. So that's been a really helpful little freebie. So you should definitely scoop that up and it'll give you some fun ideas. And they're all like quick things that you can do on your own.
Awesome. Well, all the links are in the show notes. So just scroll down and click on it and connect with her. And Alycia, thank you so much for coming on today. This was such a fun conversation, but I knew it was going to be fun. I didn't even doubt that it wasn't going to be a good time talking to you, but thank you for sharing so much.
Thank you so much. This was great. This was awesome. I can't wait to listen to it. And thank you so much for having me. And everyone out there, I hope to see more of you in your business.
Yes. Perfect way to end it. All right, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.